Oh boy. Oh boy. It is week 7. It is the TFA Start or Sit show. Welcome in. Thank you guys for joining us. Podcast. We're back. Damn it. It's happening. We're going to be back in your feeds on a regular basis. You can always catch us. If that ever happens where it seems like we're not putting out content, always please be sure to check out the TFA YouTube channel. There will always be stuff coming out on there, as well as the fantasyauthority.com with all of our written content. But we're back. Rest of the year, you're gonna get us. You're getting Kevin and I. We've reset the schedule. We're looking forward. We're not looking back. Kev, say what's up to the TFA pod. Say what's up to the YouTube channel. Tell everyone how you're doing. How's it going?
Well, very well, sir. So it's week 7. We still have football. My heart goes out to Ryan Fitzpatrick. They did my man dirty. Fitzmagic down here balling this year, and they just, set his ass on the bench after, 3-3 start. But, the last 2 weeks have been really great. So I don't know what the hell's going on there. I don't know why now, but, it is what it is, I guess. But I don't know if you saw his press conference today, but man, he did not look like Ryan Fitzpatrick, the happy-go-lucky guy. He said he was heartbroken and he was shocked. So I think much like everybody else was.
Yeah, it's weird. You had mentioned in our TFA chat, like, he didn't really do anything wrong. Like, it's not like he's been playing like shit. You know what I mean? Like 3-3, like you said. What else could you expect from? Like, that's probably literally the best you can expect from this Dolphins team. So it's just a little odd, but I mean, I guess now we get to see what he is able to do. A couple other pieces of news and notes before we jump into this. We're going to be going position by position, talking about starts and sits for week 7. But Antonio Brown, he had the 8-game suspension. He is nearing a return. There apparently have been a handful of teams that have reached out, and Seattle has been one that's been linked to him really since the offseason, but they're the ones that have been reaching out again, I guess. Are you looking to potentially stash Antonio Brown right now if you have the space? Obviously, you're not going to drop anyone that's going to be helping you for the next 2 weeks, but is that someone you would think about stashing right now if you have the room?
Absolutely. I know there's going to be some people that are going to say, well, we don't really know what to expect from him. I hope he doesn't go to Seattle. Like, I think it'd be great for football, but like, I don't know if it's the best landing spot in terms of just fantasy production, right? Because one, I think it would affect obviously DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and what they have going on there, because they are just, kind of target hogs there in Seattle. I think it would negatively affect them a little bit, but good thing for DK Metcalf, he's not somebody that needs a ton of volume to be able to still eat. So obviously adding Antonio Brown to that wide receiver corps would be fantastic. But yes, I would be adding him now, because I think after this week, people are going to be adding him even more so. So I think he's still widely available. So I would do it preemptively if you have the roster spot. Yes, I would definitely add Antonio Brown.
Yeah, you mentioned the COVID stuff. The Raiders sent OT Trent Brown, sent him home. Actually, the entire offensive line, but they put Trent Brown on the COVID list. We don't know what's going to happen yet, but just be aware of that. Have some different options in place just in case that game does not get played. Like, who knows what's going to happen with that. Sterling Shepard activated off the IR. He's going to try and play Thursday. I guess that's going to be a game time decision. He'll try and go through the pre-game warm up and see how that goes for him. Miles Sanders, Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz are all inactive for tomorrow. And then you just mentioned a preemptive pickup. I have 2 I'll throw out here before we start jumping in. We got some questions already before we get to quarterback. But Gio Bernard, Mixon didn't practice. He did have that the foot or ankle injury where he left for a short amount of time last week. He came back. He was able to finish out the game, but he didn't practice. I think they have a bye week coming up in 2 weeks. So if you have the space, Gio still is available. He was only rostered in like 10% of Yahoo leagues and 5% of ESPN leagues, I think. So again, if that's a scenario where you have the space and you can drop someone and plug in Gio, you can do that and kind of just wait and see what's going to happen with him. And then the other one I want to throw out, Gabe Davis. John Brown did not practice today. I guess he's been banged up the entire year with multiple injuries. McDermott came out today, said he's been playing at way less than 100%. Maybe it's the same kind of thing where they decide just to sit him. Maybe they do that with Mixon as well. But Gabe Davis has been playing pretty well, and he was the offseason hype darling. So, and in deeper leagues, or if you have the space, maybe you can add those two guys to help you out for the next few weeks.
Yeah, and the last one I would say is Dallas Goedert. He is eligible to return off IR. So if he is still available in any league, I would add him, especially as barren as the tight end position has been. Zach Ertz is droppable. I mean, I'm sorry, he is. He's been bad all year. Now he's out 3 to 4 weeks. So I think you can safely drop Zach Ertz. You don't need to hold him on your roster. But I will say that Dallas Goedert is a must own, like, because he is eligible to return any time. I think they hold him out this week, and I could see him bringing him back, activating him next week. With that extra rest, as well as Jalen Reagor as well. They're both on the same track to come back. So I think both of them could return next week.
Got a couple of questions, and we're going to jump into quarterback. Our guy Max, rocking with us in the YouTube chat, wants to know if we're worried about anyone on his team to try and trade away. He's looking at Michael Thomas, D-Hop, Anderson, Jefferson, Ruggs, Carson, Gibson, Ingram, Harris, Andrews, non-PPR. I mean, I'm not really. There's no one on that list that you're going to trade away and get return for. None of your big names. I'm worried about. I mean, Ruggs is kind of who really knows, but you're not going to get. I don't think you're going to get a lot of value or return for him right now. So if that's, I mean, wait for him to pop off for another week or so. Andrews, you're not going to trade away. I know he's kind of been disappointing through some of these weeks, especially last week where a lot of people thought he was in that smash spot and disappointed. But I mean, is there anyone on that list that really sticks out to you?
No, Mark Ingram's hurt, by the way. So obviously it's on bye, so it doesn't really matter for this week. But we'll have to something to monitor for next week, where you'd be looking to actually add something like Gus Edwards if Mark Ingram's out for a long period of time. So
yeah, the report was it's not thought to be severe. So maybe with the bye week, he's fine. But that's just if he goes down, I would be much more interested in somebody like you used to say, Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins. But until then, I'm kind of staying away from that backfield just in general. And you're not going to be able to trade away Ingram right now and get anything in return. So, I mean, he might be someone who's droppable, to be honest. You were talking about Ertz. Ingram might be as well. Max also made a trade of Claypool for Gibson, was needy of RB. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great trade. I mean, Antonio Gibson continues to have a large involvement in the offense. Actually, I really like Antonio Gibson this week as well. So we'll get to that when we get to running backs. But yeah,
it's been a little. I thought he would be having more of the work at this point, but they are just absolutely incessant on giving J.D. McKissick 8 targets a week for whatever reason. But I mean, Gibson, I do like. I like his rest of the season upside. Deontay Johnson, that was something we could have mentioned at the beginning. He was a full participant at practice, so he should be back this week. And how that messes with Claypool and his opportunities is yet to be seen, but it is something to note. Justin T, half PPR, needs a flex for this week. Joshua Kelly, Chase Edmonds, or Christian Kirk.
I'm on Kirk with that one. I think you can just great matchup against Seattle. Something we'll talk about when we get to wide receivers more. But yeah, it's probably Christian Kirk for me, half PPR. I like Joshua Kelly. I think he's a little bit of a bounce back, but I like Justin Jackson more. They have a great matchup against the Jags, and then Chase Edmonds. I do like a little bit more. Last week the Cowboys, in that game, they just kind of steamrolled them, right? So they didn't really ever have to throw the ball that much. So they were able to just, lean on the ground game. I think Kyler Murray only completed 9 passes in that game. So I think they're going to have to do a lot more than that going against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks this week. So I think Christian Kirk, you see a much larger volume, probably somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 targets, something like that. Or maybe, I think 7 to 9 is probably a little bit more fair.
Got another Christian Kirk flex question. Debo, CD, or Kirk? Full PPR.
CeeDee Lamb, yeah. Lock him in.
Josh Twenter joining us. What's up, man? Gibson, Boston Scott, OB. Oh my! Could you imagine at the beginning of the year lumping Odell in with Antonio Gibson and Boston Scott? Like that's how disappointing. I don't blame him. I don't blame Josh at all. But that's just how disappointing that Cleveland offense has been. Like even whenever they're putting up points, again, I'll bitch about it one more time. Going back to that Dallas game, they put up 50 points of offense, and Baker Mayfield still had less than 170 passing yards. It was just bonkers. I know OBJ, that was his big game, but still, for me, for Boston Scott, I am not ready to trust him yet. Week 1, whenever Sanders was out, Corey Clement was actually the one who got the bulk of the carries. I don't know if I can't remember if something was going on with Boston Scott at that point, but I do remember Clement got the bulk of the workload. I'm not ready to trust him yet. So for me, it'd be between Gibson and Odell. Kev, what are you thinking on these three?
It's Odell. I think he's a borderline wide receiver 1 this week going against Cincinnati. Look, I mean, he's still getting 25% of the targets.
Yeah.
He is a high-end wide receiver 3, borderline wide receiver 2, low-end wide receiver 2 right now, averaging about 14.5 fantasy points per game. So I get it. A lot of the other stuff, though, I mean, he's 11th in air yards. He's 9th in among air yards share among the offense. He has 8 deep targets, 6 red zone targets. So he's still seeing a lot of usage. It's just, it's been a little bit hit or miss.
What are your thoughts on Tannehill this week going up against the Steelers? Nick Blake wants to know. I just asked him if he had any other options. I don't love it. I don't hate it, but obviously it's going to depend on who else is there. But what do you think about Tanny this week?
I hate this matchup for them. They lost Taylor Lewan, their starting left tackle. And this Steelers defense is legit. And so for me, I am not in love with playing any Titans this week. I don't even love playing Derrick Henry this week. I know some other people are going to be a little bit higher on him, but the Steelers defense is really good. And so for me, I just can't if there's anybody else out there, I'm starting him over Ryan Tannehill. And if he ends up burning me, he ends up burning me. But the process, it's just not there for Ryan Tannehill in this matchup. There's got to be better guys that you can go after.
I agree. Stafford or Breeze this week from A Machine.
Yeah, Stafford.
Picked up AB for Ertz. A Machine did. So he's goes right in line with what we were just talking about. Noel needs 2. DJ Moore, Boston Scott, Christian Kirk. Just rolling the 2 receivers there. Are you going to start Boston Scott this week?
I do like. I mean, I this is a decent matchup against the Giants. He's going to get opportunities. I believe, if I remember right, isn't it last year? This is the when they playing the Giants when he went off. I'm pretty sere it was last year whenever he went off for 3 or 4 touchdowns. Kind of made his entrance into the league. I don't know. I am not worried about playing Boston Scott. I think you can play Boston Scott. He's going to get the opportunities. I'm pretty sure he outtouched Corey Clement in their first matchup, the first week of the year, whenever they played against what. But to be honest with you, though, it's easy to look at that. But Washington has been really good against the run this year. They have not been no pushover in that department. That's whenever they had Chase Young and everything else. So it's easy to look back at that and say, well, it didn't really work out that well. But I'm pretty sure that with this week, I'm less concerned with him going against the Giants front. Well, the Giants have been decent against the run, but they're not elite. So I'm okay with going Boston Scott. He's got to get pass catching work. They are still without a lot of weapons. I mean, we're talking about now, they're going to have Richard Rodgers as their starting tight end this week. Richard Rodgers is going to be the starting tight ends of the Philadelphia Eagles. They are getting Deshaun Jackson back, which is a good. Travis Fulgham, is going to be out there as well, who's actually played really well over the last couple of weeks, but he gets a terrible matchup in his own right. Likely going to see a lot of James Bradbury. So I don't mind playing Boston Scott. But with that being said, I'll probably still go DJ Moore and Christian Kirk. But it's close.
I'm glad you corrected me on that. You are right. For some reason, I don't know why I thought week 1 Clement saw maybe he saw more snaps, but Boston Scott did see 11 opportunities through Corey Clement's 8 in week 1. So you were correct on that. Brad wants to know CeeDee Lamb or the aforementioned Travis Fulgham.
CeeDee Lamb.
So it looks like A Machine has between Stafford or Breeze. He's saying if Stafford doesn't do well this week, should he try to trade for Rodgers or Matt Ryan? Bench is Montgomery, Juju, Breeze, McKinnon, Swift, Schultz.
I don't see no reason why Stafford shouldn't do well this week. He wasn't bad last week. Like, I know the fantasy production wasn't as what we wanted as fantasy, owners of him, but I mean, they just crushed the Jags, and like they got down to the goal line multiple opportunities, and they just punched it in, with DeAndre Swift and stuff like that. So like it really so much. It's not like Matt Stafford had a bad game last week. It was just they were able to just kind of manhandle, run the ball. DeAndre Swift kind of had his coming out party. So it wasn't so much that Stafford played horribly last week. It was just more so just kind of the way things unfolded in that game. So like we've talked about, Stafford's schedule the rest of the way is absolutely amazing. And having these guys back, fully healthy, TJ Hawkinson, Kenny Galladay's fully healthy. So in this matchup against the Falcons, they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. The Falcons finally bounced back last week, with finally getting a win. Julio turned back into Julio. Shockingly enough, for the people on Twitter who were saying that Julio was washed. But anyway, but yeah, no, I don't think you need to make any move there. I don't like ever trading quarterbacks. I don't ever like trading for a quarterback. I think there's just better options out there on the waiver wire, and giving up somebody of value like a running back or wide receiver is just not good process, in my opinion. I would much rather hold on to what you got, and then just if you had to, you could stream. Because as well, like Carson Wentz, Carson Wentz is available in a lot of leagues now because people are dropping him. But I've been really impressed. I mean, he put up 22 against the Steelers and then dropped 33, I believe, fantasy points against the Ravens. And those are the two worst matchups he's going to see all year. And now things really start to open up for that offense. And like we talked about, they're going to be getting all these weapons back. Deshaun's back this week. Jalen Reagor should be back next week. Dallas Goedert will be back. Alshon, which whoever the fuck knows, whatever that guy's got left. But, they're going to have all these weapons back. So things are only going to get better for this offense. Miles Sanders should only be out probably 1 week, possibly 2. Then there's their bye, and then he should be back. So Carson Wentz is also a bye for me.
Brad has another wide receiver question. Robert Woods going up against Chicago or T. Higgins going up against the Browns? I mean, I will say that the Bears have had granted there's context needed with all this, but they've been playing really well on defense. Kyle Fuller is kind of returning back to form after he had the disappointing year last year. He's looking better. Khalil Mack is looking better. Out of these two, obviously Higgins has the better matchup. Are you rolling Higgins because of that, or are you going to stick with Woods?
It's Woods. And I think Woods is a high-end wide receiver too this week.
Do you know off the top of your head where you have T ranked this week after the week that he put up last week? Because I mean, what for what we expected from Woods, he's been okay. I mean, he does have 3 touchdowns on the year, so I think that already passes up what he had last year. I think he only had the 2 touchdowns, and that's why a lot of us were high on him because they just screamed positive regression. He only has 3 games over 70 yards. What we got here, Kev?
Yeah, I have him as a high-end wide receiver 3.
And you said Woods on 1-2 range.
Yeah.
Man.
This question is probably Rodgers. Jonnu could be back this week. If he's back, then Ferkser goes back to just being who he is. So I can't play Eifert. I'm not playing. Jordan Akins. I don't know what they're going to do now with how Darren Fells has played the last 2 weeks. I don't think that all of a sudden they're just going to go away from him. So it's Richard Rodgers.
A-Machine just out here making moves. Traded Fant for McLaurin.
Yeah, great move. Excellent move. Fantastic.
Good for you. Giants D or Chargers D? I'm going to go Chargers there.
Yeah.
I wrote the Chargers up as my defensive stream of the week. Earthly Links rocking back with us. Gasecki on bye. Who should I pick up? Richard Rodgers or Drew Sample? It's a 14-team league. Who you rock? You going Rodgers there over Sample?
I probably would, but I do think Drew Sample is really interesting this week. They get Cleveland. Cleveland's been terrible against tight ends this year, which they are most years. So they are really bad against them. I think Drew Sample has a little bit, but I just think they have way too many options in this offense. When you look at, AJ Green all of a sudden came back to life last week, and Boyd and T. Higgins, and there's just way too many mouths to feed in this offense. So I think that's why I'd probably go Richard Rodgers. I mean, Richard Rodgers, as crazy as it sounds, could end up seeing 8 or 9 targets this week.
Yeah, under normal circumstances, that would sound crazy, but considering they're picking up guys off of JV high school teams and playing them at this point.
What? But it would be funny if they actually unleashed, because they still have Hakeem Butler, don't they?
I want that to happen so bad.
Because they picked him up, and it would be funny if this is the week they decide to unleash him.
I think it was 2 weeks ago. So
yeah,
that would be. I'm here for that. New Life. What do you think about Brady against the Raiders this week? Yeah, I mean, Raiders are. They're not. I don't think they're doing anything crazy against quarterbacks. I definitely think that you can start him. Obviously, Godwin is back. He didn't look 100%, but he came to that game unscathed. So I definitely think that he's someone that you can look at playing this week, and I think he's right outside, right at that QB1 range.
Yeah. So actually, I think this is a good segue, right? Let's just jump right into the quarterbacks. Talk about this because we can talk right about that, right? So these are our week 7 quarterback rankings. This is a QB1 that we have. Obviously, not going to spend any time talking about Russell Wilson, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray. Put those together. Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson. So I mean, those guys are locks this week. All have great matchups. I'm all over the place with these names. Josh Allen is the one that I'd be a little bit concerned about because they are going against the Jets, where do they really need to throw the ball that much? Can they get up early and just run the ball? So, but past that, guys like Matt Stafford, like we already talked about, absolutely love him this week going against the Falcons. I think this is a great matchup. Probably, I think you could easily see him. I think he easily crest the 20-point mark this week. I know last week he was pretty bad. I think he only had 14 fantasy points, but like we mentioned, they just pretty much ran the ball the whole time. They're not going to be able to do that this week against the Falcons. So I do like Matt Stafford quite a bit. Justin Herbert has absolutely balled this year. It is, I don't think it's been stated enough how well he's done as a quarterback this year, coming off the bench and short rest, and how well he's played against some really good quarterbacks. So I do like him quite a bit this week. They get a great matchup against the Jaguars. I believe it is at home as well. So I think Justin Herbert's a guy that you could probably stick in your lineup for the rest of the year and play and feel pretty good about on most weeks. They do have a couple matchups left, but I don't even know. I mean, with the teams that they played so far, I mean, he's performed well in every opportunity he's gotten. So it's hard for me really to look at him and say that, there's a matchup that they have remaining on their schedule that I'm really worried about. So I like Justin Herbert. Big Ben, we kind of talked about this matchup with Tennessee. I think this game could go either way. I think it could be a 31-24 type game, or it could end up being a 20-13 type game here. But I do like Big Ben enough. I think you can feel comfortable with starting him against Tennessee. Tennessee has not been very good against the pass this year. So I do like Big Ben. Drew Brees, getting Michael Thomas back is going to be huge for him and where his outlook is, because there's been a lot of struggle bus for him the last couple of weeks without Mr. Slant, Michael Thomas, right? But getting him back in this offense, they'll have Jared Cook back and healthy. So I do think there are a lot of good things coming for Drew Brees. It may not be, I don't think he's all of a sudden going to start throwing the ball downfield, but getting Michael Thomas back in that offense is going to do a lot for this team. So I do think that this is good for them moving forward. So Drew Brees is definitely a play. And then Tom Brady, I have right there against the Raiders. My problem with this is another game where I feel like that they could end up getting up early, especially if the Raiders are missing their entire offensive line. I don't know what to say, because that is going to be pretty brutal and would have to really would really change a lot if that's what ends up happening. But as we saw last week, where Tampa Bay just kind of got up really quickly on the Packers, or I should say it was down 10-0, and then after that they just kind of rolled after that, where I could see them just run the ball the rest of the game. So I do think Tom Brady, in a game where I feel like it should be a little bit more close, as long as the Raiders aren't missing their entire offensive line, then I think Tom Brady is a pretty strong play this week as well.
Yeah, I really like Herbert. Talked about him in the waiver show. He was still available, and I think he was rostered in about half of leagues on ESPN and Yahoo, and he's just been playing super, super well. Like you said, just being thrown into it too. He's not getting the Tua treatment where he's going to have the luxury of having 2 weeks to prep for his first start. So that's been super impressive. Matt Ryan, I mean, weird that having somebody like Julio Jones back in the starting lineup is going to make everything else look a lot better. Like, shocker. I mean, it was shocking that he put up 2 touchdowns when I think, according to Twitter, that he hasn't had 2 touchdowns total in the past 5 years. But the quarterback, I guess, landscape this week, I think you can go a lot of different ways and feel okay about it. I think we're going to get a full-on Aaron Rodgers fuck you week after what happened last week. So I'm looking forward to that going up against Houston. That should just be a back and forth, just a points and fantasy bonanza. I'm looking forward to that one. And I think you have two teams that are also giving up a bunch through the air as well. So that is I do like a lot of what's going on in the top 12 of quarterback rankings. And you can always find our rankings over on thefantasyauthority.com. Kev, what does the QB2 landscape look like for you this week?
Yeah, it's kind of a pretty steep drop off. The guys that I think Cam Newton. You look for the Patriots to bounce back a little bit this week. That was kind of a rough game for them. What was it? Almost an all field goal game against the Broncos last week, where they took the L, which was rather surprising. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. But like I mentioned with Tannehill, I could see this game going one of 2 different ways. I'm actually a little bit lower. These are actually consensus rankings between me and Robbie, who's on our Sunday show. I'm a little bit lower on Tannehill. I just think he could go many different directions. But Teddy Bridgewater, if you're going to attack the Saints, it is through the air. So I do think Teddy Bridgewater is in play. I would rather play Teddy Bridgewater over Ryan Tannehill. I'd rather play Carson Wentz over Ryan Tannehill. But that's kind of where I'm at with it this week. But like I said, Carson Wentz, you're not going to talk me off of him this week. I didn't play him last week. I own him in a couple of leagues, and I did not play Carson Wentz last week. And at the first half, I felt pretty good about it. I was like, okay, I made the right decision here. This is okay. This worked out. And then actually we had a baseball game. I'm a coach for my son's baseball team, and I got done with the game, and I went to look at my phone, and I'm like, what the fuck happened? 33 fantasy points for Carson Wentz. But anyways, like I said, I against the Giants, I think he can, I think he can feel pretty comfortable. Probably I think 16 to 20 fantasy points is probably somewhere pretty safe that I think he could end up this week. Joe Burrow against Cleveland. Cleveland wants to run the ball. I don't know what defense is going to show up there for Cleveland, but if they're able to get pressure on Joe Burrow, I think you could look at Joe Burrow making a couple of mistakes. If you had to play him, I think you could. Gardner Minshew, I don't really want to play him. Andy Dalton, if you're absolutely desperate, you could go there. And then, you have Jared Goff, who I just hate this matchup against the Bears, and I may be lower on Jared Goff than most everybody else this week, but Jared Goff, when he plays good defenses, he's just a terrible quarterback whenever he plays even like above average's defense. So I don't like this matchup for Jared Goff. I don't want to play Jared Goff. If you own Jared Goff, I would look to stream somebody else because this is just not the matchup that I want to play Jared Goff in.
Yeah, the book has been out on Jared Goff for quite a while. You get pressure on him, you get him off his first read, and that contract just continues to look worse and worse from what he signed. What was it? I guess was that last year or 2 years ago at this point he signed that extension. Luke has the question, Burrow or Wentz. Your rankings, you had Wentz just one spot over him. I like Burrow just because of the weapons. Obviously what Wentz did last week, coming back with those same weapons, not having anything going for him. I would feel okay sitting Wentz and starting Burrow because that's the first time we've really seen Wentz do that. Now, if he had, let's say, Goddard and Rager back, I would feel more comfortable. That is close, I think, on Fantasy Pros consensus. They're also back to back. They have Burrow at 16, Wentz at 17. But either way, I don't think there's that big of a discrepancy that I would say to slam one over the other. But I do like Burrow over Wentz just because of the weapons. I don't think that the matchup is too different either to really give an edge on either of those. Couple of questions before we jump into running back. Brad wants to know, can you be confident playing Godwin this week over guys like Boyd and Robert Woods? I mean, Godwin came back in. He got the majority of the targets there. Obviously, we had the ghost of Gronkowski past showing up and just giving a vintage Brady Gronk game. But Godwin came in, like he didn't look the same. He wasn't as explosive. I don't think he was really changing direction as well either. But I'm pretty sure outside of Gronk, he led the team in targets and receptions and yards and all that. So I think you can. Out of those three, how would you rank those for Brad?
It would be Godwin, then Woods, and Boyd, then Boyd. So yeah, I mean, I get the concern. So last week he actually only played 61% of the snaps, which is by far the lowest he's played of the 3 games he's played.
Yeah.
He only ran 20 routes, but he did see 7 targets on those 20 routes and had 5 receptions for 48 yards. Did not find the end zone, but I mean, it's kind of right in line with what he's done the rest of the season, in terms of his targets and his receptions that he had. But again, I mean, this was a game that they really didn't have to throw the ball that much. I mean, they got up quickly and they were able to just kind of, score at will. They were able to run the ball against the Packers, so they didn't really need to throw the ball anymore. So it's not really something I'm worried about. But yeah, so Chris Godwin, like I think with another week of rest, get him some more time to heal up a little bit more. Yeah, I feel 100% confident with Chris Godwin. I still think Chris Godwin's the wide receiver 1 on that team.
Yeah, on the Sunday show, you had expressed some doubt and some concern for Evans, and I think he had 2 targets last week. I think he just had the 1 catch for 10 yards. So I mean, he's been playing banged up too. In fairness to him, but even since the beginning of the year, that's Godwin has been the one there for Brady. A Machine wants to know, man, first of all, trade one of these tight ends, but because there has to be somebody in your league that could use one if you're holding these 3. You got Fant, Henry, Hawkinson. I think just because of Fant practiced limited all week last week, didn't play. He had limited practice again today. So it seemed like he's on track. But out of these 3, I'm putting him last. So for me, it's between Henry and Hawkinson. I think they're close. Kev, what say you? Who are you going with between assuming you're going to play Henry or Hawkinson over Fant? Who are you going with there?
It's Hawkinson. I have Hawkinson at tight end 3 this week. So
there you have it. That's it. Shelton wants to know Eagles D, Giants D, or Saints D. Oh boy, who do the Saints have?
I'm going to go with the Eagles. Daniel Jones is turnover prone. Whether it's through the air, whether it's throwing interceptions or fumbling. So yeah, it's Eagles D for me.
Yeah, now that you said Daniel Jones in the defensive streamers article that we have up on the fantasyauthority.com, Nate Henry called Daniel Jones a walking turnover. And that when I was editing the article and putting mine in, that made me chuckle. William Hamby wants to know wide receiver 2 and flex. McLaurin, Fuller, AJ Brown, Gibson, Claypool, Deontay Johnson. So we need a wide receiver 2 and a flex out of this group.
So McLaurin's a lock. He's the lock for me going against Dallas. And then
I'm going to put Fuller in with the matchup that he has against Green Bay. I just think that's going to be a high scoring game. It's going to be a lot of back and forth. I think they're sitting at either the highest or the second highest over under on the week. Sitting at 56. The line opened up at 56, and it has actually moved up to 57.5. The spread opened at 3, and now it's at 3.5. So the total is moving up. The spread is staying the same. That the money is coming in on Green Bay though with 58% on the spread and 51% on the over for that game. Because if you're concerned about Tannehill and the Steelers defense, I don't think you can there's no reason to go to AJ Brown. Gibson's he might have a safer floor, but it's a lower floor. Claypool, Deontay. I mean,
I don't know how I'd feel about playing two from the Washington football team. So, yeah, it's probably McLaurin and Fuller. It's just he has a tough matchup this week against Jair Alexander. Jair Alexander has been one of the best corners in the league this year. He's going to be seeing a lot of him against Green Bay, but yeah, it's probably Will Fuller.
Brad, appreciate that. Subscribe if you were like Brad. If you're enjoying this, if this is your first time joining the TFA airwaves, we'd really appreciate that. Subscribe. We eclipsed that 500 subscribe benchmark. So any and all support we get going forward, we're always going to answer your guys' questions. If we are ever not live and you have a question, just drop it in on one of the newest videos, and we'll make sure we get to that. There's no question that goes unanswered here on the TFA pod. So Brad, we do appreciate that. A Machine already traded Hawkinson, so that's going to process after this week. So play Hawkinson one more week, stack those points, get that dub, and move on. Blue Crew, is Lindsey now droppable? He's Gordon owner, concerned he might get suspended this week. Looks like the NFL might let the process carry out. Or do you think Blue Crew can package both for one RB?
So I do not think that Melvin Gordon is going to get suspended this year, because the NFL does not typically they don't ever suspend somebody until after the legal process has played out. And I can guarantee you that they are going to continue this court date until after the season, so he's able to play the entire year. I guarantee this is how this is going to play out, and he'll probably be suspended for the first 3 weeks of next season. So yeah, Lindsey is droppable if it just depends on what else is out there for you, right? Especially now we're into week 7, we're getting closer to that point. So if there's somebody else out there that's more intriguing, yeah, I think you could go with Philip Lindsey. I don't like having my direct handcuff. I would rather have other people's. Like right now, not that people care about my fantasy team, but my bench is loaded with guys like Alexander Massa, Chase Edmonds. I still have Joshua Kelly. I picked up Benny Snell. I picked up JaMychal Hasty for the 49ers. So I'm just loading up with handcuff backs.
Blue Crew needs 2 of these in a PPR for wide receiver. Cup Claypool, Higgins. Who are you sitting out of those three?
I'm going to sit Claypool.
Is that because of Deontay coming back, or you just like the other two matchups better?
Yeah, I just like the other two matchups a little bit more. I actually don't think that Deontay affects Chase Claypool one bit. I think it actually affects James Washington, who is going to go back to relegated to fourth. But to be honest with you, like, you know who I'm not playing this week? And you'll notice once we get to wide receivers in my wide receiver rankings that I do not have Juju Smith-Schuster in my wide receiver rankings. He is not a top, or he's not a top 36 wide receiver for me this week. He just hasn't been. Like, you can't trust him anymore. You can't play him. He's an absolute bench. And if he goes off, so be it. Like, but he has done nothing to show that I don't know if he's got some sort of injury. I don't know what the hell is going on anymore with Juju Smith-Schuster. Like, maybe that 1 year was just a complete fluke and he's just not that good. I don't know. But I know they have some other options there. But you would have thought, like, once Deontay went down, that maybe he would have saw some more targets. Like, I know he scored the 2 touchdowns the first week of the year, but it just hasn't been a good year for Juju. And Big Ben has played well. So, like, it's just kind of shocking that Juju hasn't really done anything. And at this point, like, I just can't play him unless you're absolutely desperate. Is about the only way I would play Juju Smith-Schuster. And the sad thing is, you can't do anything. Like, you can't drop Juju, I don't think. But you're not going to be able to trade anything for him. So unless you're in like a keeper league or something like that, and you're a team that's kind of struggling, and you want to, maybe he hopes and bounces back or something like that, and you want to acquire him. But other than that, like, you just have to sit him on your bench.
Yeah, it's been very, very disappointing. I was always lower on Juju, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. Like, I didn't expect what he's been doing this year to play out the way it has. Maybe that knee injury is more serious than what they've been leading on. He's been sitting out Wednesdays routinely, and I know you don't really pay too much attention to the Wednesday practice reports because of that, but he's been on that injury report, I think, since week 2. He's been banged up with that knee, and maybe that's the issue. But Bloody Martinez wants to know Keenan Allen or Travis Fulgham for the WR2 spot.
It's Keenan Allen, and it's not even close. I mean, Keenan Allen's in a great spot, like we talked about. They lost some, or they were on bye last week, is what I was trying to say. So Keenan Allen, who had that back injury, he left the game the previous, what was that, week 5, whatever they last played. He should be good to go now. So it's Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen, I think I have him as I believe I have him wide receiver 1. If not, he's a high end wide receiver 2.
Earthly Links pulling through. Hey, we are keeping it real all the time. That's what we do. Appreciate that. Earthly Links has been rocking with us since the beginning. Got a bunch of trade questions. Let's roll through and jump into the running backs for week 7. We're gonna fire these off. Should I trade Gibson straight up for Will Fuller standard scoring? I think if Gibson is like your RB4, for sure. If he's all right, let's say Gibson is Sicilian's 2K's RB2. Are you doing that if Gibson is more important for him at the running back position?
Yeah, just like you said, it's going to depend on who he has. If he's still good at running back, I don't like trading running backs away for a wide receiver because just the inherent value. And as we've seen this year, it's been a fucking massacre for running backs. Every week we're losing one, and so Antonio Gibson continues to kind of move up because of that. But if you're set at running back, then yeah, I mean, I would definitely make that move because I mean, Will Fuller has been solid all year. He has 3 100-yard games. He's now scored a touchdown. He is back on this touchdown. Remember a couple years ago when he had that insane touchdown streak? Well, he's back on it again. He's now scored a touchdown in 4 straight weeks. So, yeah, I would definitely make that move.
Shelton has Jonnu Smith. Should I pick up Ferkser or Fells? I mean, it depends on who you're dropping him for. Do not drop Jonnu for either of those guys. Jonnu was limited today, which would potentially put him on track to play. Not a great matchup against the Steelers, but they did just lose Devin Bush for the year to an ACL injury. So I would say it's going to depend on who you're dropping them for. But out of the two, I think I would rather pick up Fells if you're going to go that direction.
Well, I mean, if you had to secure somebody, I would probably rather have Ferkser because he's going to end up being the starter, right? To kind of protect yourself as kind of like that cuff for Jonnu. Like, but it sounds like from what they're talking or hearing what they were talking about him last week that it was pretty minor, that they weren't really worried about it. So if he's already back to a limited practice on a Wednesday, I think he'll be back and playing this weekend. So I don't think you're really going to have any concern anyway.
Daniel wants to know, should I trade DK Metcalf for Amari Cooper?
Let me see how I can say this in the most respectful way possible. Absolutely not. DK Metcalf has been an absolute baller this year. He's wide receiver 4 in fantasy points per game. He's just absolutely crushed.
Andrew Marks, someone's offering me Kenny Golladay and David Johnson for Cooper Kupp and James Conner. Andrews is on the Kupp side, so we'll be trading away Kupp and Conner for Golladay and Johnson. I think I'm going to keep Kupp and Conner.
Yeah. It's tough because I like Kenny Golladay. I think you're getting an upgrade there with Kenny Golladay to Kupp. But the James Conner, like, the only thing that scares the hell out of me with James Conner is just, he could get hurt in any single week. But other than that, but James Conner is the absolute bell cow in this backfield. And compared to David Johnson, I would prefer Cooper or James Conner. And he is probably one of the few guys that I would probably look to actually handcuff my own running back that I have, and that would be with Benny Snell.
A Machine has a trade offer, would be getting Thielen and Ryan, trading away Golladay, Montgomery, Juju.
Doesn't he have a lot of quarterbacks already?
I think tight ends.
Oh, I know he has a lot of tight ends. I'm trying to remember his team. I don't really like trading for quarterbacks. Again, kind of something I've talked about. I mean, giving away Juju, we've already talked about, doesn't really matter. So to me, it's more comes down to Golladay and Montgomery for Thielen and Ryan. And Thielen is going to be hit or miss on weeks because if they're able to get up in games, they're going to run the ball. Dalvin Cook is going to be back next week once they come off of bye. So I would probably rather have the Golladay, Montgomery, and Juju side, as crazy as that sounds.
No, I agree. I mean, Golladay has been a little disappointing, but he's still been playing fairly well considering his injury to start the season. Rupert Depata wants to know, should I trade away Antonio Gibson and Keenan Allen for Mixon and Jonnu in a PPR? Thoughts on that one, Mr. Steele?
No, I wouldn't.
Jorge Petro wants to know, pick 2 PPR, Crowder, Gibson, A-Rob. A-Rob locked in. Are you going Crowder or Gibson? Crowder, who's been averaging approximately 26 targets per game the past 2 or 3 weeks.
James Crowder, doesn't even matter which quarterback is out there. The dude just continue. Yeah, he's seeing a 31% target share, which is second best in the league.
Crowder season, baby. It really didn't make any sense to me why he was going as like a low end wide receiver 4 going into draft season, especially in full PPR leagues. Like, that one just did not make any sense to me why he was so low. But back to the question at hand, A-Rob obviously locked in. Crowder or Gibson, which one you got?
But is there anybody more disrespected though than James Crowder? Because to be honest, even the same thing. Like, I think I have Jameson Crowder at where do I have him this week? Yeah, I have him as a wide receiver 3, but this dude is wide receiver 6 on the season in fantasy points per game at 19.8 fantasy points per game. It's fucking ridiculous. But and we continue to disrespect him every single week. But the dude just sees he hasn't had a game yet this year under 10 targets. He's 13th in the league in targets, and he's already missed a game. Or no, he missed 2 games, didn't he? Yeah, he missed week 2 and 3.
It was bonkers.
And he's had three of his 4 games this year have been 100-yard receiving games. So it's just been insane. He's got 2 touchdowns. So yeah, yeah,
Ron Crowder.
yeah.
So Crowder and A-Rob there. Agala wants to know McKinnon, LaVisca, Edmonds, PPR flexer this week.
I'm probably going to go McKinnon. So Monsters have been put on. I don't know if they've put him on IR yet, but they're expected to put him on IR for the high ankle sprain. I think is the last that I had heard. It was kind of the rumor going around that they were going to put him on IR because of it. And so I would go McKinnon.
Yeah, the only thing I saw there was likely to head to IR. Nothing definitive yet. Wiki music notes. I'm assuming DJ Moore or Travis Fulgham.
DJ Moore.
Karn, hey guys, who should I start at flex? Juju, Debo, Mike Williams, or Fulgham? All the Fulgham this week.
Well, it's hard, right? He's balled the last 2 weeks. I mean, what are you supposed to? What are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah.
Actually, like the last 3 weeks, he kind of went under the radar the first week, but I think he had 86 yards receiving for that first week, and he's gonna have a role, I think, the rest of the year. Even when some of these other options come back, they're getting Deshaun Jackson back this week, but no, he had 57 yards receiving the first week. Yeah, 2 receptions, 57 yards the first game, week 4 against San Francisco. But he's had, and he had a touchdown that game. That's right. So he's had a touchdown in every single game. I don't love the matchup going up against James Bradbury, but with the options that you're presenting me here, I'm probably going to go with Fulgham.
You're going to go Fulgham over Mike Will?
Yeah.
E4 Mafia dropped Stafford or Moss for Goddard. We just talked about to start off the show that picking up Goddard is a sneaky low key play right now, especially with the just absolute disarray the Eagles are in. Would you drop either of those for Goddard with Herbert being E4's other quarterback?
I mean, assuming that we are. I mean, assuming it's a 1 quarterback league, yes, you can drop Stafford for him.
Claypool or Godwin for wide receiver 3 for Daniel?
Godwin.
Start 3 for Brad here. We are working for Brad's subscribe. Godwin, Boyd, Higgins, Woods, Lamb, Fulgham.
So Boyd and Woods and Lamb is where I would go. Godwin, Woods, and Lamb. Yeah. Is that what I said? I hope that's what I said.
You said Boyd.
That's what I thought. That's why I had to correct myself. No. Godwin, Woods, and Lamb.
Okay. Last Fish in the Pond joining us again on Twitch. We appreciate that. Flex half PPR, Deontay Johnson, Devonta Foreman, or DeAndre Swift. Kev, you were on DeAndre Swift last week. Obviously, Debo still had we had that question from my boy in Oregon with Swift and Debo. You said Swift. I was on Debo. I didn't think it was going to end up looking anywhere near as close as what it did. Who you rolling with here? Flex half PPR. Johnson, Freeman, Swift.
I'm going to go with Swift. I think it's a game they're going to have to throw the ball, which is going to be good for him. It still was concerning with Swift. He still only played like 38% of the snaps, despite how efficient he was. Hopefully, but it's Matt Patricia, and he's a donkey. So who knows if he's actually going to do it? Because Adrian Peterson, let's be honest, should not even be on this team. They should probably just release him because DeAndre Swift is definitely the best running back they have in Detroit. They drafted him in the 2nd round. Let's give this guy, he's a 3-down bell cow. Like, the guy can do it all. And so, like, maybe it's time to actually, maybe we go in that direction. But yeah, I think for me this week it's DeAndre Swift.
So this is going back to Killian's Gibson for Fuller question. Yeah, I think you can trade away Gibson for Fuller in this.
Oh yeah, you're great. I mean, Miles Sanders isn't playing this week, but he could be back as early as next week. But yeah.
Start 2, Clyde, Cooper Kupp, Claypool, Fulgham.
I'm going Clyde. I know Le'Veon Bell is actually here this week. He was actually watched his opening press conference, which was today for the Chiefs, and he said he's still trying to learn the playbook, which to me tells me that he's probably not going to be involved heavily out the gate. I think he becomes a little bit more involved as the season goes by. So, especially with the game that Clyde Edwards-Helaire just had, where he just went. And this dude, I mean, has had so many touchdowns taken away from him this year. It's insane, right? He had a couple weeks, or either last week or the week before, he had the receiving touchdown called back on a penalty. He had a rushing touchdown this past week against Buffalo that was called back on a holding call. And then they gave Darrell fucking Williams, hasn't played much all game, and all of a sudden, hey, let's give this guy the fucking goal line carry so he can go in and get a touchdown. Anyways, but it's Clyde and Kupp for me.
Silver Simplex 1 half PPR. Would you trade Antonio Gibson and Juju for Melvin Gordon and Hollywood Brown plus the Bucs D? The little defense trade. These are rare commodities in the fantasy landscape. Who are you going with here in half PPR? Are you going Gibson and Juju or Gordon and Hollywood and the Bucs D?
Yeah, I want the Melvin Gordon side.
Curtis Larkin, Woods or Slayton?
It's Woods. Even though I do like Slayton quite a bit this week, but it's Woods.
Then Packer wants to know Newton or Tanny.
Cam Newton.
All right, all caught up. Let's try and run through these running backs here. Sorry, I thought our producer was going to be pulling up the graphic here for us. So looking at our week 7 consensus RB1 rankings, again, you can find all of our rankings over on the fantasyauthority.com. Leading off with Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, Zeke Elliott, Chris Carson, Kareem Hunt, James Conner, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry sitting down there at 8th, going up against the Steelers. Todd Gurley making a top 10 appearance. Clyde, the aforementioned, James Robinson, and Ronald Jones. Kev, who sticks out here to you? Is there anybody that you want to touch on out of these top 12? Obviously, we don't have to dive in too far to these guys because if you have them, you're starting these guys basically week in and week out, maybe with the exception of Todd Gurley. But for me here, I like Kareem Hunt a lot this week with his matchup going up against Cincy as long as he's fully healthy. I think he was limited today with that rib injury. But what is sticking out to you here?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go fully in depth. Derrick Henry's the one guy that I'm nervous about. I know he had the monster week last week, so it's going to be hard for people to even imagine. And I'm not sitting Derrick Henry, but I could see a scenario where Pittsburgh gets up early and kind of game scripts Derrick Henry out of this a little bit. Losing Taylor Lewan is going to hurt as well at left tackle. So we'll see how this all plays out with Derrick Henry. But Pittsburgh's run defense has been absolutely elite this year. And so I don't feel great about playing Derrick Henry. I would temper my expectations. But he's also a guy who could go out and bust off an 80-yard touchdown at any time. So, I think that's kind of been the one thing if because I believe against the Steelers, because Miles Sanders had that long 75-yard touchdown run against them, and then I think Melvin Gordon a few weeks before that had busted off a long touchdown against them too. That's kind of been the only thing they've really given up. Other than that, you're pretty much getting hit in the backfield and taken down. So for me, I would temper expectations with Derrick Henry. I think this is a good matchup for Todd Gurley against the Lions. So we already hit on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. James Robinson, he's still getting the volume and he's still getting the work. It's not a great matchup against the Chargers, but I think if you got him, you're probably starting him this week. And then Ronald Jones, it feels really weird for me to have him as an RB1 this week because if there's a guy that I've shit on this year, it's been Ronald Jones. And you know what? I'm just going to embrace him. You got to remove the take lock. And the guy, has continued to play really well the last couple of weeks. He's still not seeing pass catching work. And it's going to be interesting to see because last week I was a little bit down on him. I know me and Robbie had a back forth surprise, but Leonard Fournette was ruled out after that after we had that show. But if Leonard Fournette plays this week, it's going to be. I want to see how they're going to reincorporate him back in the office because I do think that could end up hurting Ronald Jones, especially considering he does not see pass catching volume, and if he's not, then that is going to be a problem for Ronald Jones owners. And to be honest with you, Ronald Jones is still the ultimate sell high in my book. Because I think Leonard Fournette could come in here. And I don't think he's going to take over the touches or anything, but I think it could be enough where it becomes like almost annoying. And he's going to take away some touches. He could take away some goal line carries and stuff like that. And so that's what would concern me with Ronald Jones, and his ceiling gets capped because of it. So if you could trade Ronald Jones, I wouldn't be opposed to it. So I guess we can go ahead. Let's just move on to the RB2 section, which is a little bit more interesting. I have David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, Mike Davis, Josh Jacobs, David Johnson, Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake, DeAndre Swift, Devin Singletary, Justin Jackson, Boston Scott as a low-end RB2, and James White for this week. So for me, the ones that stick out to me, like I said, I really like this matchup for Antonio Gibson. Dallas has been atrocious. David Montgomery is still the workhorse back here. He had a great matchup against Carolina last week. He gets a pretty good matchup this week. The Rams, if you're going to beat them, it has been on the ground. And so that is why I like David Montgomery. That's why I have him as high as I do. I know some people will look at that matchup against the Rams and not love it, but the Rams have not been great at stopping the run. They have been really good against wide receivers this year and stopping the pass. So for me, that is why I have David Montgomery. We know the Bears want to run the football, and I think this game is going to be kind of an ugly game. So I do like David Montgomery. He's also involved in the passing game. Mike Davis, a lot of people have him as an RB1 this week. I do not. This is not a good matchup for him going against the Saints. The Saints are a pass funnel defense, and so for me, I'm not feeling confident about Mike Davis this week. I know he kind of bailed out his fantasy owners last week, I think, by finding the end zone, or else it was going to be a really rough day for Mike Davis last week. So this is not a good matchup against the Saints, so I just can't mess with him. Or I shouldn't say I can't mess with him, but that's why I'm lower on him than everybody else. He is involved in the passing game, so that's why I have him where I'm at right now. I know people aren't going to love that, but I'm just saying, yep, Rye.
Nope.
Come at me, bro. Come at me. Okay, we'll see what happens after this. So we'll see what happens here. But I feel confident. I think we can come back. We'll circle back around. We'll bookmark this for Sunday night, and we'll talk about how Mike Davis did and where we come in on this. But Josh Jacobs, again, I have him a little bit lower. Terrible matchup against the Bucs. The Bucs defense as a whole has been elite. They've been great against the pass, and they've been great against the run so far this year. So, and Josh Jacobs is somebody too has been game scripted out on games that once they get behind, they tend to pull them off the field and use Jalen Richard a little bit more. So, and especially if they don't have an offensive line, there's no way I can trust Josh Jacobs going against this team. So we'll see there. David Johnson, Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake, I don't feel great about having him where I have him. I feel like I'm points chasing a little bit with Kenyon Drake because of how great he was last week. But Seattle, you can run against Seattle as well, but I don't think this is going to be a game that they're going to be able to throw. They're going to be able to run the ball like they did last week against the Cowboys. So if that's the case, I'm tempering my expectations with Kenyon Drake, but I have him where I have him. DeAndre Swift, like I said, absolutely love him, especially against Atlanta. Atlanta's terrible against the run. Justin Jackson, I like him more than Joshua Kelly. Justin Jackson right now looks like the better running back, to be honest with you. And so that's why I have him where I got him. And then Boston Scott and James White round out the top 24.
Yeah, with Montgomery, just to circle back to him, last week he should have set up as a smash spot against Carolina, but he did not get it done on the ground. But like you said, he's been super involved as a pass catcher. He's had 6, 8, and 5 targets the past 3 weeks, and the Rams are giving up the 6th most receptions to running back. So even if he's not getting it done on the ground, he's still going to be involved, obviously, with Tariq Cohen hitting IR for the Bears. So I do like that one. And the the YouTube channel does not like the Mike Davis call on having him down there at would that be 13, 14, or at RB 15.
Well, if you look at him last week, I mean, he played 90% of the snaps, but only had 18. He had 18 carries, everything. I mean, 3 targets, 2 receptions, but like I said, the touchdown kind of bailed him out. I mean, he had 11.5 fantasy points. So I'm not expecting anything better. I mean, if you look at the other matchups they had this year, where he had a lot of opportunities, Atlanta, Arizona, those are teams you can run the ball against. So where he really popped off. So, this is one of the worst matchups he could get against the Saints. So, that is the only reason that I'm a little bit lower on him than I think other people are. But I still have him as a high end RB too. So, the RB3s are McKinnon, Freeman, Damian Harris, Darrell Henderson, J.D. McKissick, Joshua Kelly, Chase Edmonds, Lev Bell, Jermichael Hasty, Phillip Lindsay, Jamal Williams, and Leonard Fournette. He's kind of gross once you get down here, right? Like I think Devonta Freeman's okay. He's getting the work. I don't love it, but I think that I think he can find the end zone, and I think he gets enough pass catching work that I think he becomes relevant. These are PPR rankings as well, so I guess I should mention that. I could probably have Jerick McKinnon higher. Actually, I think I'm probably a little bit lower on him than probably what I should be, but the one thing I am concerned with was what we saw last week with Hasty with McKinnon and Hasty, is that Hasty had 9 carries and he looked really good at the end of that game last week, and so I'm a little bit concerned that Jerick McKinnon doesn't become the absolute workhorse that he was prior whenever Monster was out before. So, and then I think Tevin Coleman might actually be due back this week as well. So, or he is now eligible to come off IR, I believe. So he could be activated. I'm not sure if that's going to happen this week or not, but if it does, then obviously that's just another blow to Jerick McKinnon. Even without it, I think Jermichael Hasty at least earned himself the right to have a little bit more opportunities. Darrell Henderson, I hate this backfield. I fucking hate it. I do. I hate the Rams backfield as a whole. Malcolm Brown. I wish they would commit to one guy or maybe just go to 2. They have Cam Akers. They spent this draft capital on him. They don't really give him any opportunity, even though he's out there. Darrell Henderson, but then he ends up losing touches to Malcolm Brown because whatever Malcolm Brown is always going to be a thing. I don't know what Malcolm Brown's done to earn this right to always get this opportunity, but we'll see. But anyways, so that's why I have him as kind of like a flex option. J.D. McKissick continues to be heavily involved in the passing game. This is a great matchup for Joshua Kelly. I think that the Chargers try to run the ball, and I think if they can get up early, then I think they really feed Joshua Kelly, and that's why I think that he is in play this week, despite how bad he was a couple of weeks ago, but that was against the Saints. Chase Edmonds, if they're going to throw the ball a lot more, he's going to be much more involved in the passing game. He still played the same amount of snaps that he always does. I think he played about 38% last week against the Cowboys. Le'Veon Bell, I don't feel great about this because I really don't have any indication of how much he's actually going to play. I think he could get maybe 5 to 10 snaps, or he could get, maybe 20 snaps and get a little more work. But he is such a great pass catcher that he's had the playbook, I guess, since last week. So I think that, somebody that is as good of a pass catcher as he is at a PPR format, that's why if you were desperate at running back, like I wouldn't hate playing him, but I wouldn't feel great confidence. Jermichael Hasty, I already talked about. Phillip Lindsay is really borderline. The Chiefs have been terrible against the run. So I do think that that's exactly what the Raiders or the Broncos are going to try to do, but against the Chiefs this week, because the Chiefs have been horrible. So, and then Jamal Williams continues to get, third down work. Leonard Fournette, if he's back, I think he has a role in the passing game. So that wraps up that.
Yeah, and obviously if Mixon does not play, or if we get word that he's going to be limited, I think you can put Gio up here in that RB3 conversation. Like I said, depending on what.
If there was no Mixon, Gio Bernard would be a high end RB2 for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, he's still widely available across ESPN and Yahoo leagues. So let's grab some of these questions, and then we will move on to wide receiver. Mini Jordan 718. Speaking of some of these running backs, needs a running back and a flex. Swift, Justin Jackson, D'Ernest Johnson, Odell, Chark, DJ Moore, Deontay. So let's pick a running back first, and then we'll pick the flex spot.
Swift.
All right, and then flex. Are you going to roll Justin Jackson, or are you going to take one of these wide receivers?
No, I'm going to go with OBJ there.
Last fish in the pond. Survivor pool. Atlanta over Lions. Thoughts on that one? Because this is not just a straight up Survivor league. You're also rewarded points for the most uncertainty. So right now, this line opened up with the Falcons favored by 3. It has moved down to 2 on the spread. This is basically 50-50. You have 51% of the money coming in on Detroit and 49% coming in on Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I yeah, I mean, I can see it happening. I don't feel great about it. Like, I don't love it, but I don't think it's a lock by any means. But yeah, I mean, I think you can do that.
Nuremberg Soccer, Hooper or Henry?
Henry.
Yeah, Hooper has been quite disappointing for all the hype at the beginning of the season. Robert Henry wants to know, start Claypool or DJ Moore?
DJ Moore.
This was in reference to Curtis's question earlier when he said Woods or Slayton. I do like Slayton this week, but I do believe you said Woods.
Yeah, I mean, I like Robert Woods. It's not even, and I get what he's saying. You know, the Goff is not going to be great. When we talked about that, and I don't think that he's going to be great. But the good thing, the one thing I do like about Woods is how much they use him as a running back as well, and they kind of get creative with how they use him. They're going to have to throw the ball to somebody, and so I just like Robert Woods a little bit more. If you wanted to go Slayton, I think the upside's there. But he also, I think he's probably going to be seeing Darius Slay as well. Which isn't a great matchup either. Darius Slay has played pretty well this year. So, and then you're trusting Daniel Jones, which is also not a great matchup. So, I would probably just go with the player who I think has a better floor is Robert Woods. But if you're looking for ceiling, then I think you could go Darius Slayton.
Right before we head into wide receivers, Blue Crew wants to know thoughts on Allen Lazard's fantasy outlook after he returns. Have you heard anything about as far as being like X amount of weeks out or anything? I have not seen anything.
No.
The last thing I saw was he was just out indefinitely.
Well, see what I can find.
As we wait.
I don't see anything on it whenever there's a possibility of him coming back. I don't think he's somebody that you're wanting, like you're going to want to stash or anything like that, or somebody that you're going to need to do anything with that with. So, I mean, now with Devontae Adams back, I will say that they really haven't had much at wide receiver too. I mean, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, but they were also terrible last week. So I think Scantling is going to be boom or bust, but they really do. I mean, a team that could use Antonio Brown. The Packers. I mean, they could. Because they said today that Antonio Brown, that would be the Seahawks were definitely interested, but there were other teams that were interested. But I think the Packers, as well as they played out, barring last week, like they're a team that definitely needs more pass catchers. And so, if you get Antonio Brown on a 1-year deal paired with Aaron Rodgers, and and Devontae Adams, like that would be a pretty scary duo right there. So, yeah, I mean, I just don't think Lazard is anybody that you need to like, stash or anything like that.
Yeah, especially we haven't even been hearing any whispers of, starting, even starting a jog at practice or anything like that. Award Doc wants to know, who should I start at my flex? Crowder, DJ Moore, Travis Fulgham.
I'm probably going to go DJ Moore.
Abraham Pena, AJ Brown, or Mixon at flex?
As long as Mixon plays, it's going to be Mixon for me.
Who gets the better of this trade? Godwin and Fulgham for Keenan Allen.
Who's ever getting Godwin?
Agreed on that. Miles Woodward. Who should I try and trade Todd Gurley for? Full PPR.
So here's what I would do. Depends on what your other running back situation looks like. But if you are good at running back and you can withstand losing Todd Gurley for a couple of weeks, I think trying to trade for like a Nick Chubb would be super interesting. So the one concern with Nick Chubb was going to be when he comes back, if Kareem Hunt would have smashed, like would they have just given Nick Chubb back the regular allotment of snaps and everything else? But this run offense does not look the same without Nick Chubb back there. Like, so I think it's kind of put to bed some of the stuff about that Kareem Hunt can just step right in and do everything that Nick Chubb has been able to do. Like Nick Chubb, like if you look at all the Nick Chubb's numbers this year, like Nick Chubb has been legitimately elite before he went down. And so if you could pull off like somebody who owns Nick Chubb, I think you could end up making that move. Now it would really depend on what your other options are at running back, and if you can make that, if you could wait. Or if you can take that, because he's not going to be back until week 10, but we're not that far off of it, right? You're only a couple more weeks. They're on bye week 9, so really you'd only really lose them for the next 2 games. Obviously, you'd have to fill that void. So I think Nick Chubb is somebody that I would definitely be looking to for anybody that's listening to buy low on right now, because I think people they're going to be much more, especially if that owner is 3-3 right now or 2-4 and they're desperate, like, and you're a team that's 4-2, 5-1, like I would definitely be looking to trade for Nick Chubb right now, because he's going to be back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, if you could pull something, I would even be willing to add something on top of Gurley to be able to get that done. Like you said, if you can withstand chilling for a couple of weeks, depending on what your RB situation is. Cross wants to know, who do I play this week at the flex this week? Full PPR. Looking at Fulgham, DJ Moore, Woods. Cross is leaning Fulgham because of Ertz being out, and the Giants. You going DJ Moore there over Fulgham?
So I only get one, right?
Correct. Need a flex spot for LK.
I would probably go Woods. Man, I'm really tying my wagon to Robert Woods this week.
Bold strategy, Cotton. See how that works out for him. Blue Crew is saying that Lazard returned to the sideline today. I still think it's going to be a little bit before we see him. So, I mean, if you have that spot that you can kind of just burn as your kind of your last roster spot, like if your league added those couple of bench spots because of all the COVID stuff this year, if you have that spot to burn, if he returned to the sideline and you think you can hold out and wait, I mean, if your last roster spot isn't giving you any production and you're not even thinking about possibly starting them, I guess you can go that way. But I would still hold off on that until we start to hear some more rumblings about him potentially returning, because I think even like that's something you could wait up until like that week of waivers, because I still think Lazard is going to be kind of forgotten there. Abraham wants to know what we think about these RBs: Carson Mixon, James Robinson, Nick Chubb, Antonio Gibson, and should I pick up T. Higgins, Slayton, or Cole? I mean, I like Higgins there. I know Cole is your boy, but I'd rather hitch my wagon to Joe Burrow right now than Gardner Minshew. So I like Higgins for the waiver pickup. I would go Higgins, Cole, Slayton, I believe. Depending on what you need. If you need the higher ceiling, I would prioritize Slayton over Cole, but I'd still have Higgins ranked 1 there. And then your RBs, Abraham, I think you're bragging here a little bit. It's a little off-putting. I'll just say.
Yeah, he's just flexing on us with his running back.
No, that's a sick group.
Yeah, I mean 6 to midnight just by reading it. To be honest with you, but yeah.
What do you think about the waivers?
The waivers, I think it's really close between Slayton and Higgins. I'd probably lean towards Higgins, but if Daniel Jones can at least be a competent quarterback, I think it would be different because I think Darius Slayton is much better than what he's been given. But and it should be mentioned that Sterling Shepard sounds like he's probably going to be back this week as too. But I think you mentioned that earlier. So, but yeah, it'd probably be Higgins.
Daniel wants to know who should I start at my flex: Justin Jackson, Godwin, Claypool, Fulgham.
Godwin.
Jacobs against Tampa Bay's defense or David Johnson against Green Bay? I'll go DJ there.
So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to go Josh Jacobs as long as their offensive line is there. But if it's not, I'm going to go David Johnson. We just got to see what's going to become of this, and who is in and who is out for the Raiders offensive line. And Anthony, as what looks like, yeah, that's Russell Wilson there. So it's been good to watch Russ cook this year, isn't it? It's been great. They finally let Russ cook.
It is full 2020 when Pete Carroll is letting Russ cook to the extent that he has let him cook. Mini Jordan 718 back. What are some good RBs to package? Chark, Deontay, OBJ, DJ Moore, deep at wide receiver with Hopkins and Diggs. I think Mini Jordan's looking to go for an RB, right?
Yeah, and this is one of those things I was just talking about. Trying to get Chubb. I think he's somebody that I'm looking to target to acquire, and teams that are desperate are be willing to give up Nick Chubb, especially with knowing he's not still going to be back for a few more weeks. It's not like he's back this week or next. So that's where I would start, because I think that he's somebody who, as soon as he comes back, he is going to step right back into that role of being the lead back. And I mean, he was crushing prior to him going down. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's where I would start. It was somebody like that. And I think you could probably package, probably OBJ and like a Chark or something like that to make that happen. Or Deontay, whatever. I mean, especially after, maybe it might be smarter to wait till after this weekend, because there's no rush, because obviously Nick Chubb's not going to be back. See how some of these guys do and sell high, like if OBJ has another big week, or if Deontay bounces back and has a really good week. I think you could do that.
Ryan wants to know at flex, Boyd, Monty, Fuller.
I'm going to go Monty.
Woo! You go Monty over Fuller? I thought you were going to say Fuller there.
I like Fuller, but I don't like him as much, because I think you have to take into consideration this matchup he has this week. Jair Alexander's been a stud. So, like I think you should temper expectations a little bit with Will Fuller. He doesn't play in the slot. So I could actually see Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb having a bigger game here. So the only thing that I think you could say with Will Fuller is he has a high ceiling because of the fact of him being a threat deep. So, and this turns into a shootout. So I think Monty has a higher floor, but I do think that Will Fuller has a higher ceiling.
So if you were ranking these three, you would have Boyd last out of the three?
I think I would, but I would, but yeah.
Andrew Marks has been kicking it with us for a while here. says, sounds like we are low on Fulgham and Claypool.
I do not have Fulgham, I believe, as a top 36 wide receiver this week. And it's mainly because of matchup. I think that he sees a lot of James Bradbury, and James Bradbury, sans week 1, has been excellent. It's a Thursday night game, and it's if you had to play him, like I don't have a problem with it. Like there's certain guys, but for so far, like most of the guys we've had, like it's just been kind of a clear cut other options that I think you'd be better off playing. But once you start getting down to like that wide receiver 3 range, like I could see myself playing because I get the argument for him because they're so thin at weapons. Like we already mentioned, I mean, Djax will be back, so that'll be good. And I think that'll take some attention away from Fulgham to be able to get a little bit more opportunity. But past that, I mean, it's him and Djax and Fulgham, Richard Rodgers, and then, Boston Scott out of the backfield. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he sees 10 targets this week, but it's just not a great matchup going against James Bradbury. So I'm a little concerned with that. That's why I'm just a little bit lower on him than maybe I should be.
×2.
And then Claypool, I'm not really low on. I think I have, again, it just really depends on what the questions have come up and who's been in the group. I do have Claypool, though, as a wide receiver 3. I have him ranked the highest among all Steelers wide receivers this week. So maybe this would be a good segue to jump into the wide receivers. So with that, let's start at the wide receiver 1s.
Who we got here with the TFA consensus. Again, you can find all of these rankings on the fantasyauthority.com.
So we got Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, Julio, Tyreek, DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, Kenny Golladay, Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson, and there is the good old Robert Woods. Mr. Robert Woods as a wide receiver, a low-end wide receiver 1 this week. I don't really need to talk about a lot about this group. This is your elite wide receivers. Allen Robinson is a little bit scary because of the matchup that they're getting against the Rams. We've talked about how good the Rams have been against opposing wide receivers this year. I'm almost positive that Jalen Ramsey is going to shadow Allen Robinson this week. Nick Foles, I'm sorry, has not looked any better than Mitch Trubisky at this point for the first couple of weeks. So for me, I am a little concerned with Allen Robinson this week, but you likely don't have anybody better to even imagine sitting on Robinson. I don't think there's anything else to really talk about in this group of wide receivers. I don't know if there is for you. But for me, I did see, though, I don't understand DK Metcalf on like Fantasy Pros consensus rankings was like 17 or so. He was low, I think. Or maybe that was Robbie that was super low on him. I couldn't remember, but these are my rankings.
On Fantasy Pros consensus, DK Metcalf is wide receiver 8.
Okay, so it was Robbie. We'll talk to Robbie on Sunday and why he hates DK Metcalf this week, and I'll be right again because I have DK Metcalf at wide receiver 6. So, but do you have anything you want to talk about with this group?
I mean, no, not really. Like you said, I think we can move on. It's pretty cut and dry. There's nobody. If you have any of these top 12 on your roster, week in, week out, you're probably not sitting any of them, to be completely honest. So I think we can move on to the wide receiver 2s. You're kicking things off there, or the TFA consensus is kicking things off there with Terry McLaurin at wide receiver 13, followed by Odell, Keenan Allen, Will Fuller gets that high wide receiver 2 ranking. A.J. Brown, Tyler Lockett, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb making a top 24 appearance, and then teammate Amari Cooper to round things out. Who are you most in? I mean, obviously these are rankings, but who's intriguing you? Who's piquing your interest this week, or who stands out to you out of this group of wide receiver 2s?
Terry McLaurin, love that dude. It doesn't matter what terrible quarterback he gets paired with, he continues to produce. How much fun it's going to be to watch him once they actually get like a real quarterback in Washington. Who knows? Maybe they will get Trevor Lawrence this year, this upcoming year. We'll see. Or maybe they'll get they'll go back to the Ohio State well. and take him, but we'll see. But anyways, Odell, I like Odell a lot this week. This is a good matchup against Cincinnati. I think this is a matchup, hopefully, that we get some points scored here and they have to throw the ball, because as long as they do, then I think Odell really makes a lot of sense this week. I think people should feel really comfortable playing him. Keenan Allen, we've already talked about. This is a great matchup against Jacksonville. He should be able to destroy that secondary of the Jags. It is at home, so it's inside the dome. So I like that as well. But Justin Herbert to Keenan Allen, I think is a great play. Will Fuller, I've already talked about some of my concerns with him. I do have him as a wide receiver too, but I could see that going a little bit sideways with Jerry Alexander. So I do think they'll move him around, try to get him free from that matchup. AJ Brown, we've already talked about this. I think it could go either way with Will or with AJ Brown. It's a scary matchup. How many targets does he see? You know, how this is going to go against Pittsburgh. I think this is going to be a true test of how good this Titans team really is this week against that Pittsburgh defense. So, but then Tyler Lockett, Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, I have both of them very close. This is a matchup against the Panthers that, you know, to be honest with you, or a matchup against the Saints. This is how you beat the Saints, is through the air. You know, and then you also, you know, if you're one of those people that like narratives, revenge narrative with Teddy Bridgewater coming back to New Orleans to face his former team, I like them both. I think they're both definitely wide receiver twos this week. Mike Evans, we've talked about. I've talked about it. He has not been as good with Tom Brady at quarterback this year. He's really been bailed out a lot by the touchdown. I know he has 200-yard games this year, but overall, I know he's probably nursing some sort of injury that he's playing through, and hopefully that's all that it is, and we start to see him return to being the Mike Evans that we know. But as of right now, it's a little bit scary to play him on a weekly basis. Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, then Amari Cooper. I do think that this get match up against the Washington football team. I don't think it's going to be high scoring. I don't think I think that the Redskins or that Washington can push Dallas as bad as their defense is. I don't think they're going to be able to come out here and drop a lot of points on them for Dallas to have to throw the ball a lot. I think Dallas can run the football against Washington, and I think that's what you're going to try to see them do. I'll be honest. I mean, when you got the Washington players in the locker room leaking out stuff like they think that the coaching staff doesn't know what they're doing, is kind of scary.
Dallas.
Yeah, and then Dallas locker room saying some of the stuff they've said about Mike McCarthy this week doesn't really bode well. But regardless of that, I still think CeeDee and Amari are decent plays.
Man, the YouTube chat is popping off right now. Obviously, you're listening to this in podcast form as well. But if you were missing out on the YouTube conversation, we got Dwight Peebles, former TFA own Dwight Peebles. If you're into Dynasty and Devy content, make sure you head over to his YouTube channel, the Devy Manual, and give him a subscribe over there. He's doing cut-ups that is going to. We are actually just a little sidebar. We are only like 2.5 months away from full on Dynasty season, and I could not be more excited. So if you want to do your own homework on some of the prospects coming up, head over to the Devy Manual YouTube channel and subscribe over there. The wide receiver 3 consensus rankings for TFA: Darius Slayton kicking things off at wide receiver 26, Tyler Boyd. The absolute disrespect. I
do feel like I'm actually a little bit low on Tyler Boyd. I don't know. We'll see. We'll circle back around to this on Sunday, because I do feel like that I'm maybe a little bit too low on Tyler Boyd, because this is a decent matchup. You can beat Cleveland through the air.
Yes.
So I do think I'm probably disrespecting. Put some respect on that man's name. But
you
yeah,
should. You need to. And then in that same matchup coming up after Tyler Boyd, we got T. Higgins, DJ Chark, Chase Claypool, Christian Kirk, Brandon Cooks, Visca, Deontay Johnson, Jameson Crowder, Tim Patrick, and Keelan Cole. Kev, out of the wide receiver 3s here, anyone that's really sticking out to you? Anyone that you just touched on Tyler Boyd, you might be too low on? Was there anybody in this grouping that you were kind of going back and forth on, or kind of not sure about? Anyone you think you might be too high, too low on? Although I will say real quick that I love the fact that Tim Patrick, I've seen him popping up a bunch on the Twitter timeline recently.
Yeah. So one, Deontay Johnson, I think, is really scary to have him where I have him because, like the first two games that he played, he had a 30% target share, and then but with him, it's just been injury, right? He got hurt those couple of weeks. He had the concussion, and then he had the back injury really early in the game. But he's back full participant in practice, so that's good to see. So I do think Deontay could probably step back out there and probably get a large workload. And I think he's somebody that you probably buy pretty low from people for people who own Deontay. But maybe I'm a little low on Chase Claypool. I don't know. I have him as like a high end wide receiver 3. I don't think that's too ridiculous. Yep. And like I talked about earlier, I do not have Juju in my ranking or in my top 36. I think I'm at like 41. You just can't trust him. So that's why I don't have him there.
What are your thoughts on Deebo Samuel? Walito brings him up in the YouTube chat. For Walito, I love Deebo. He's always been one of my favorite players going back to his rookie year. The receipts on Twitter will show that I was pretty high on him in terms of where everybody else is ranking him coming in as a rookie. But he's just you can't trust the usage there with him. And outside of that, what was that, like that little pop pass, quote unquote, that if you get the fantasy points, that's great for you. But if you're playing against somebody like Jimmy Garoppolo and you see that little pop pass that he takes for the touchdown, I believe that was last week. That's maddening if you're going up against somebody like Garoppolo. But what are your thoughts on Deebo Samuel? I think people are going to be looking to potentially play him this week with Jimmy Garoppolo bouncing back, going up against the Patriots on the road. What are your thoughts on Deebo?
I currently have Deebo at wide receiver 39 is where I have him. It's not the best matchup against the Patriots, so I understand people's thoughts on that. But going up against this Patriots defense, that is still really good. Stephon Gilmore and the I will say that I think that you probably see the Patriots try to take away George Kittle in this matchup, leaving a little bit more for Deebo Samuel. But I just think this is a low scoring game, and so for me, I just think there's a lot of really good matchups this week, like a lot of really good matchups. I mean, there is, I think, 6 or 7 games this week that are, if not in the 50s or close to the 50s. And so for me, this matchup with the Patriots and the 49ers, it just feels like a gross game, like really low scoring. So for me, I am much more about ceiling, and that's what I care about far more than a player's floor. I do get with Deebo, he is also utilized as a runner. So that can help alleviate some issues that you may have with him. But I'm just a little bit lower on him. So for me, after I get past Keelan Cole, it is Michael Gallup, Deebo, and then Juju Smith-Schuster is how it goes. It's just after this list.
Yeah, I think we have 7 games that are 50 points or higher this week, and that is also without a total. Oh, never mind. That's going into next Thursday. But yeah, so we have 7 games that's currently at 50 that might get bet up. So a lot of, like you said, a lot of intriguing matchups. Hopefully this isn't like the other week when I think we had 5 or 6 games that had that 50-point total, and that did not end up being the week that we thought it was going to be. Let's hit some of these questions, and then we will move on to tight end. You guys have been insane in the YouTube chat right now, so I'm going to go and try and find where we left off last. So if you ask a question, we don't get to it, drop it in here in a little bit. Let me see if we can get to these first. Carlos wants to know Gronk or Hurst at tight end.
It is Hayden Hurst for me.
Not buying into the Gronk revival.
I think you're chasing points a little bit if you think that this is all of a sudden just going to keep happening. Like I like Gronk, so like Gronk is fine, But again, I just don't think this is a game that I feel like this is a game that the Bucs can control. I don't think they're going to have to throw the ball that much. And so, with another week with all the weapons that they have there with Ronald Jones, I think they're going to try to run the ball. And so, for me, I am a little bit lower on Gronk.
Abraham want to know Browns or Chargers defense. Definitely go Chargers there. Like I said, I wrote them up on the streamers, and I can't remember exactly where they sit, but the Chargers are relatively high in their pressure rate on quarterbacks, but it hasn't been amounting to sacks and turnovers. But I think we can get there this week with the Chargers, so I would go them over the Browns. Raven DeVoe, Herbert or Matt Ryan? I think you had Herbert over Ryan this week, correct? Boom.
Yeah.
Back to back. Got Herbert one spot over there. Herbert at 8, Ryan at 9. Still the same thing there, Abraham. Go Chargers. Looking for a wide receiver 1 and an RB2 1 from Clutchful. I have Amari Cooper, Adam Thielen, Robert Woods, DJ Chark. RBs are Cook, Mostert, Gaskin, and David Johnson. What are you thinking with Clutch's team here? Do you think he's better off going for that running back piece or going for the stud wide receiver? Because obviously with Cooper and Thielen, Woods, you have a couple at least fantasy top 12 wide receivers. Chark has kind of been on that borderline. I would be looking for running back help, especially with Dalvin and Mostert going down. But what are you thinking here, and do you have any suggestions for Clutchful?
I mean, so I honestly think that he's probably fine. Like, I mean, I don't know if he really needs a wide. I mean, he has a wide receiver 1 in Adam Thielen, and then with Amari Cooper, he's been kind of hit or miss. And then Robert Woods, DJ Chark hasn't played as well as we would have liked to this year. He's also battled a lot of injuries, but like we said, Dalvin Cook's back next week, 100%. So I would be shocked if he wasn't. So they're on bye this week. He should be back ready to roll next week, and then Mostert's going to be out. So then you're kind of down to Gaskin and David Johnson. But Myles Gaskin has quietly played really, really well. I was hoping that Le'Veon Bell was not going to end up with the Dolphins because Gaskin has played really well. Now, we don't know how this dynamic is going to change once Tua's there, so we'll have to see on that. But I do think Myles Gaskin, is at least a decent, low-end RB2, high-end RB3, and then David Johnson, I think, is still there. So I don't know if there's anything you really need to go after, because I feel like if you take away to really make a real impactful move, in my opinion, you're going to have to take away something that you're just going to end up creating another hole, right? So let's say if you wanted to go after another wide receiver, let's say DK Metcalf, well, you're probably going to have to trade. You're going to have to trade a lot for that, like a Stephon Diggs, something maybe become a little cheaper, where maybe you could trade a David Johnson, but you're probably also going to have to pair with that Myles Gaskin, and you're probably going to have to trade like a DJ Chark to make that happen. Like, you're going to be giving up so much that you're just creating another hole to fix something. So, like, as of right now, like, I don't think you really need to. Like, if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to make smaller moves. Try to add a guy like maybe an Antonio Gibson or a DeAndre Swift or something like that.
David Montgomery.
Yeah, David Montgomery, that you could probably have a little bit cheaper value, and it's not going to cost you a lot. A wide receiver, try to target some guys like buy low on. Like I said, like Deontay Johnson, I think is a good one before this week. If you can make a move there, that's not going to cost you a lot. It's not going to cost you a lot. We talked about Nick Chubb. I still think you could probably get him at a decent value. I mean, I would at least shoot out some trade offers for guys like that, but I wouldn't be sitting there shooting for the moon on these guys. You're just going to create another hole somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a really solid point. If you're going after those top tier guys, you're going to just end up making a hole somewhere else. So good insight there, Kevin. Miles wants to know, should I trade Gurley for Rojo and Drake? We have Dwight Peebles in the chat saying to do that in a flash, but then Miles was saying, I don't know. Could have been a fluke game from Kenyon Drake, and Fournette is coming back. You did bring that up as a.
Oh yeah, 100% could be, but you're getting the twofer, right? Who was the other one? Who was the other back? It was
Drake and Rojo.
Yeah, and Ronald Jones.
Todd Gurley.
Which it could be for both, right? I mean, we talk about. I mean, it could be. The value has never been higher for Ronald Jones, but you're giving up Todd Gurley, so it's not like you're giving up something like I think Todd Gurley is a fine RB2, but so are both those running backs that you're trading for. You're getting two of them, so like I would feel more comfortable doing it like that.
Cooper or A-Rob this week, if I remember correctly. I think you had A-Rob ahead. Jesus. Whew. Trying to find my way through these comments. Jesus, you guys are awesome tonight. We definitely appreciate it. If you're rocking with us for the first time and you're enjoying this content, getting some value out of it, please remember to hit that subscribe button. Cooper Harris wants to know Keelan Cole or AJ Brown for the flex.
It's AJ Brown.
Not going to be scared off by the matchup.
No, at that point, I'm shooting for ceiling, and I think AJ Brown is a much higher ceiling than what. I mean, I am a Keelan Cole truther. Okay, been talking about Keelan Cole for months, well before the season started, and so I'm going to keep beating that drum for Keelan Cole, but I got to go AJ Brown here.
Would you be trying to? You were talking about buy lows. Would you be looking at McKinnon as a sell high?
Yeah. I mean, I think he is. Because again, like we talked about, like Tevin Coleman's going to come back. Hasty could be more involved. Like I don't know if this is going to be the same as it was the last time. Whenever that Mercer went out and McKinnon just pretty much was the bell cow. I think they have enough options here with Hasty as well as he played, and like I said, with Tevin Coleman coming back, I think McKinnon is a definite sell high.
Sunny D. First of all, what a delicious drink. By the way, dude, I can't even tell you the last time I had a cup of Sunny D.
Well, if you're 6, okay, then maybe Sunny D is delicious. I don't know. I always thought it was like really like acidic. Sunny D was, but that's neither here nor there. This is an easy one. Drop Corey Davis. And then the other one,
maybe if you're 6.
I mean, Sammy Watkins as well. I think you could probably drop Sammy Watkins if you wanted to. Depending on what wide receivers are out there, I think you could probably drop him too as well if you wanted. But yeah, I think Antonio Brown is definitely a definite for Corey Davis.
Bolito's giving you some props there. Max,
he is right. He is right. I nailed that. Fucking nailed it on Hayden Hurst when I told him to start him. Pat him.
Well, we all know Kev is not ashamed to pat himself on the back. Kev, go ahead and throw up that RB graphic if you could for Mr. Max Packard, who's been rocking with us since the beginning. I'll get to some of these other ones while you flash those. Max, not entirely sure which ones in particular you're looking for, but you can always find all of these rankings again over on the fantasyauthority.com. Andrew Marks has the Steelers defense. Should I drop Dalton Schultz to pick up Chargers defense? I also have Darren Waller. I mean, I definitely think you can drop Schultz if you have Waller, but I'm not sure I would necessarily do it just to switch from one defense to another. The Steelers defense has been super, super legit. I think they're leading in sacks and pressure rate and everything else like that. The turnovers are starting to come. Minkah Fitzpatrick finally showed up and had himself a game last week. So I don't necessarily think you need to drop Dalton to pick up another defense. I think that you're not going to get a massive week, I don't think, out of the Steelers with the matchup this week. But I don't think that's something where you have to drop Schultz just to pick up another defense. You can drop Schultz, but I would be looking to pick up a running back or a wide receiver there.
I wouldn't want to drop Schultz. And the reason I wouldn't want to drop Schultz is because it's been such it's so thin at tight end. Like I feel like you could actually get something for Dalton Schultz, right? People are needing tight ends so bad It is very thin at the tight end position this year. I would rather just roll with the Steelers. And if you want to move, I definitely think you should probably look to move Dalton Schultz, but I'd rather package him with somebody and make a trade for him. I wouldn't want to just drop him. And this is easily TJ Hawkinson.
The other team for A Machine, he has two teams. I think that's where we were getting the mix up on earlier whenever you were asking if whether or not this was a team he had with a bunch of quarterbacks. But the other team Machine has for the flex, Swift, McKinnon, Monty.
It's close, but it's Montgomery.
Brad wants to know if you have any or are you worried about Aaron Rodgers at all after last week?
Oh, absolutely not. He's going to be fine. Like I said, the Tampa Bay's defense has been really good. Especially, it's weird to say because especially even last year, their run defense was great, but their pass defense was atrocious. So far this year, their pass defense has been really good as well. So, no, I'm not worried about it. I mean, it started off great. They're up 10-0 and just kind of avalanche downhill. Aaron Rodgers made some really bad throws. They get a great matchup against Houston this week. We saw what happened last week with Tannehill. I mean, that was what was it? The final score, 42-36 or something like that. Ridiculousness with the Titans and Texans. I mean, Green Bay. This game should be really high scoring. So no, I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers one bit.
I know you like Justin Jackson over Joshua Kelly, obviously going up against the Jags. Not a matchup you have to worry about. But would you play Justin Jackson over Kenyon Drake?
I think it depends on what the rest of my team looks like. If I'm shooting for ceiling, I would probably actually go Justin Jackson over Kenyon Drake. But I think that Kenyon Drake probably has a safer floor. So I would probably go with him.
Claypool or CeeDee Lamb from It's Just TV.
And it's just CeeDee Lamb.
See what you did there. Daniel stars are Jacobs and Johnson for running back. Who should you try to trade for? I can't remember what the rest of your team looked like with as crazy as it's been. But like we said, shoot low. Chubb out there for sure. If you can go and get him on the cheap, if that team has been check out the record of the person who has Chubb right now. See if they might be panicking or if they're sitting pretty. You can go after him. We dropped David Montgomery as a buy low. I think those are all viable options that you can look for to go there. Michael Gallup or James White in a flex for Sunny D.
It probably. I'd probably go James White.
Can't remember who you had, but Sunny D wants to know has both Aaron Rodgers and Deshaun Watson. Trade one of them.
Yes, trade one of them. I mean, but yeah, I mean, who you playing? I mean, yeah, I mean, I'd play Aaron Rodgers. I'd flip a coin. I think I have Rodgers at 5 and I have Watson at 4 or Watson at 6. So,
Walito, I think Robbie does defensive rankings, but yeah, you can feel safe to play the Eagles versus the Giants. I think that was one of our streaming plays. The Chargers was another one, and I think maybe I can't remember the third one, but we did have 3. That's up on the fantasyauthority.com if you want to go and check that out underneath the redraft tab. Mr. Miles wants to know Robert Woods, Chark, Monty, Boston Scott, half PPR, need a wide receiver and a flex. So are you going Chark or Woods? Well, you're going Woods. You're going Woods. Yeah. And then you're going to go, are you going Chark or Monty?
Monty.
Are you going back to the Evan Ingram well this week? Or are you going to go Tanya, Big Bobby Tanyan over Evan Ingram?
I'm going to go Evan Ingram. I mean, yeah, I'm going to go Evan Ingram.
Well,
that's another good one. Actually, that's a really good one too, Austin Eckler. Yeah.
Let us know what you traded to get Austin Eckler. That is another good call. Although Anthony, why can't I think of his last name? What's
Lynn.
Yeah, my God, Lynn. I can't remember Lynn. Anthony Lynn did come out and say today that Eckler is looking to be back later than sooner with that hamstring injury.
Yeah. So yeah. So seeing that with now getting that.
Last fish coming through on Twitch. Sunny Delight is the New York Jets of the beverage world. So bad it's kind of good. May not actually contain any fruit juice. I wouldn't be surprised if it was made from furry animals, but nobody's perfect.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive. It's probably not. What is that? What was that one? The powder one? Tang? Is that what it used to be called?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's the same thing, except for you just don't have to use the powder and put it in water and all that stuff. You know, it's actually already made for you at that point.
The New York Jets of the beverage world.
That's actually fantastic.
Bravo.
Good job.
Bravo. That is fantastic. Armin K needs some help here. I have Tyreek, Crowder, Cooper, McLaurin. Which three to start?
Tyreek, Cooper, and McLaurin.
Yahtzee. Who would be the more reliable running back the rest of the season, Gibson or Swift?
I would probably say Swift.
Reliable?
Yes. There's no way they could continue to keep doing this three back, especially after as well as DeAndre Swift played this past week. They're in a much better offense. He is still being involved as a pass catcher as well. So even with that, just the offense in general, I do think that eventually they turn to DeAndre Swift as the full-time back here. They didn't just spend this draft capital on him. If not, then they should just fire Matt Patricia, and then we can, and then as he's leaving, you can also ship Adrian Peterson out the door as well, right behind him.
So if you're just listening and not watching your screen, Walito traded Deebo Samuel and Devin Singletary for Eckler.
That's tough because, with Adam Lynn's statement, it sounds like it could be like. So there's a legitimate concern here that he may not be back this year. It depends on where they're at. Like, they're not great. And what is their record? They 2-4, I think, or 2-3, or one or no. I think they're. I just fucking look it up. Why do I keep trying to guess?
I mean, you might as well rattle off all the other combinations while you're at it too.
1-4. I fucking knew it. That's right, because they've lost all these fucking close games. Anyways, I digress. We've been going. It's almost 2 hours now. This is amazing. We're here for the people, but yeah. I mean, they're 1-4. They could if they had no shot at the playoffs, I could see them not bringing Austin Eckler back for the rest of the year.
Rain Normsy wants to know Hunt for Godwin and Ingram, full PPR.
I'm going to say yes. Though I would probably maybe try to get something other than Ingram.
So you want the Godwin side.
The reason I say that is because of the fact that really you have about 2 more weeks. Actually, you have 2 more weeks to use Kareem Hunt in this situation because the Browns go on bye week 9, and then you have week 10 when Nick Chubb will be back. So you have 2 more weeks where then he goes back to being more of just like a flex option back. So yes, I would probably make that move. Maybe look at getting a different tight end than Evan Ingram. Maybe see if you can get something else worked out into that deal. But yeah, I would make that move.
Armin wants to know trade Tyreek for Todd Gurley.
No, thank you.
He's saying that Tyreek scares him and only seen a max of 5 targets. Is that legit? The Tyreek's only seen a max of 5 targets?
Oh no.
5 catches, maybe.
I can tell you right now. I'm pulling it up.
While you pull that up, we do have a question from Brad, who's a new subscriber to the TFA YouTube channel. Be like Brad. You should also subscribe. Asking about our streaming schedule. So we do this live every Wednesday. We have the podcast you can find. We just got on Amazon. We're on Google Play, even though I think Google's coming to an end. Obviously, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all of that. So you can catch the podcast there. But for streaming, Sunday mornings, we are max of 5 receptions. So Sunday mornings we go live from 11 until 12:30, 12:45, kind of doing the same thing that we are here. We do this one with the start sit schedule though. The DFS guys stream on Thursdays, and then we're going to go back to doing the early look at the waivers on Sunday night at halftime of the Sunday night game. So Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Thursday for the DFS show. Am I missing anything?
No. And we're also going to be debuting next week a buy-sell video that we will do offline and have it edited and everything else. And with all your guys you should be buying and selling. But with Tyreek Hill, I just brought it up. So outside of last week against Buffalo, which is a game that they controlled and they really just ran the ball the whole time, he has not surpassed 5 receptions on the year, but his fantasy line is as follows: 15.6, 21.8, 21.2, 16.4, 18.3, and then 5.5 last week. So he has been a wide receiver 2 or better in every single week of the year outside of last week. Again, that was a game that they just ran the ball the whole time. It's not something you're going to expect from him. So, and he really hasn't had that like monster week yet. Like those are coming where he's going to give you 40 fantasy points. He's been as consistent as he's really ever been, because that's always kind of been the concern with Tyreek, has always been he's going to give you a week it's 40, and then he's going to give you 2 weeks at 5 or 6 fantasy points or 8 fantasy points, and then he's going to have a week that's going to give you 35. But so far this year, he's been about as consistent as they come. He is only right now seeing a 17% target share, which is a little concerning, but with this offense is only going to continue to get better. So, yeah. So with that, do you want to jump over to tight ends really quick and then wrap up with all these questions?
Yes, let's do that. Rain and E4, we will we'll jump over to you after this. Let's go ahead and talk tight ends. Kev, go ahead, bring up that sexy graphic with the salute there from Kelsey. So our week 7 consensus tight end 1 rankings: Kelsey, Kittle, Hawk, Darren Waller, Hayden Hurst, Hunter Henry, Noah Fant, Dalton Schultz, Jonnu Smith, Evan Ingram, Big Bobby Tonyan, and Jared Cook to round out the tight end 1s. We were talking about this before we started recording. Really not too much to dive into here with the tight end 1s. We started this year thinking like, man, tight end is looking pretty nice this year. We have a lot of options. The waiver wire is full of streaming options, guys you can feel really good about. I remember at the beginning of the year being like, man, we can go like 18 deep this year and feel pretty good about tight end. And then like week 2 happened, and all of a sudden it was like, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that ride, because we are back to the absolute, the streets are dry. Everyone's boarded up, staying inside. There's not much going on here. So Kev, with the tight end 1 rankings, is there anyone here that you really want to touch on? Anyone that you want to talk about? Obviously, Jonnu Smith, limited participant after he exited last week's game and could not come back, but it looks like he is on track to be able to play against the Steelers. And like I mentioned earlier, Devin Bush out for the year with that ACL injury. I think they're going to miss him in coverage a lot more than they miss him with the run game there in Pittsburgh. So talk to us about these tight end 1s, would you?
Yeah, there's a couple guys I just really want to hit on. Noah Fant. If Noah Fant doesn't play, I think Albert O comes into play. He rookie tight end. He has a connection with Drew Lock. They played together at Missouri. So he didn't play. He didn't run a ton of routes, but he did see a decent amount of targets in that game against. And had a couple. I think he had 1 long reception in that game. But against Kansas City, a game that they're going to have to throw the ball a lot more. They're not going to be able to run the ball, and they're not going to be in control of the game like they were against the Patriots. So I think Albert O, if Noah Fant was to miss again this week, though I do think it's a positive sign if Noah Fant is back, even as a limited participant already by Wednesday. So I do expect Noah Fant to be back. But if he's not, Albert O, I think, is somebody that, and it will be interesting to see what the Broncos do. If maybe they'll start running more 12 personnel now with Albert O out there, because Albert O is also a really athletic tight end, and it can be pretty scary if you think about it with Noah Fant and Albert O running 12 personnel. So I will be interested to see how much that comes through. And then Johnny was another guy we're going to have to watch. Evan Ingram, but then Robert Tonyan, I think I want to touch on him too, because I really wanted to see what he was going to do now with Devontae Adams back, because this was his first game back, and it's par for the course. I mean, last week against Tampa Bay, he played 62% of the snaps, 25 routes. He had 4 targets, 3 receptions, 25 yards, didn't find the end zone, but that's exactly what he's done all year. I mean, he's lived in the 60% range in target share. He's run 20 routes in every single game. So nothing really changed with Robert Tonyan. So that is encouraging for him moving forward. So that was something that I was going to be concerned about with him, is once Devontae Adams come back, was how that was going to affect him. It really didn't. And then I like Jared Cook now with Michael Thomas coming back. And then, the tight end twos, I could probably have Gronk maybe a little bit higher, a little bit lower, But anyways, it's Eric Ebron, Gronk, Jimmy Graham, Darren Fells, Austin Hooper, Richard Rodgers, Tyler Higbee. How the mighty have fallen with Tyler Higbee, Drew Sample, Logan Thomas, Gerald Everett, Cameron Brate, and then Greg Olsen. It gets really, really gross once you get past the tight end.
Quick.
Really, once you really probably get past like the Austin Hooper range, it gets really gross. Really quickly, Eric Ebron, I don't know. Like, I think I could go either way with this, especially now with Deontay back. They have the other pass catchers. I mean, they have so many options there. But I think inside the red zone, look, at a tight end, you don't need a ton, okay? If the guy gets you 3 catches for 30 yards and find the end zone, I mean, you're feeling great about your tight end for that week, because that's how gross the tight end position is. So, Darren Fells, I want to see if Jordan Akins is able to make it back. If he is, it sounds like he returned to practice this week. So if he's able to play, I think that hurts Darren Fells a bit. But I can't see the Texans completely going away from Darren Fells. I mean, he has played really well the last 2 weeks. So I can't see where they're just going to completely go back to Jordan Akins, because that's kind of how it was going earlier in the year. Austin Hooper, again, I could probably have him a little bit higher in this matchup against Cincinnati, but I think he's somebody that you could certainly stream this week. And then Richard Rodgers, I don't feel great about it, but it is what it is. But the rest of the guys are complete dart throws.
Yeah, like I said, it gets ugly real quick. And the fact that my boy Chris Herndon didn't even make the list is it had to be done.
Should we do the kicker rank? No, there is no kicker rankings. Okay, people are waiting for kicker rankings. There's never going to be kicker rankings on this show. Okay,
even if there's a fire.
Yeah, I can't do kickers. Okay, like, kickers are the worst. But those are the rankings. Rip them up.
Discard them. Bring them back. Throw them in our faces. Tell us how wrong we are. All right, let's wrap up with a couple more of these questions, and we will get out of here. Man, we 2 hours into it, still got a bunch of you watching. We really appreciate it. This year has been awesome with you guys, and we have people talking to each other in the chat too. This is kind of what we wanted, right? We wanted to build a community. We wanted, we see a lot of faces coming back, a lot of faces. I don't know. A lot of names,
Avies,
a lot of names, a lot of Avies that we recognize coming back. So we appreciate all you guys. If you were watching for the first time, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let's rock these last couple out, and then we will get out of here. Cameron wants to know CMC and Claypool for Henry and Anderson.
No, we've made it this. Wait. My mind went to Hunter Henry, and then now I'm like, wait, it's probably Derrick Henry. No, I still couldn't know. I mean, unless it's like a standard or maybe even a half point, maybe I would think about it. But no, I mean, CMC is about to be back. I mean, he should be back. I thought maybe there's a chance he was going to be. Wait, I don't know. Has he even been ruled out this week yet?
Yeah.
They finally rule. They actually rule him out.
Yeah, or at least it was like very unlikely that he returns. So
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to be
last I had heard, they had said that there was a chance he could return this week. But yeah, so I know there's a chance, but he's definitely going to be back next week. And you know who they play next week? Fucking Atlanta. Wheels up on that. But yeah, I can't move CMC. You've waited this entire time, and now he's coming back. No.
Daniel wants to know Tanya and Schultz. You had Schultz higher. Tanya was sitting there at the bottom of the tight end 1 rankings. Mark Maloney wants to know Stafford or Newton. I can't remember where you had these. I would go with Stafford. Okay.
I have Cam Newton at QB 13. I have Stafford at QB 7.
Like Stafford this week as well in that matchup. Nate Zucker wants to know Jacobs or AJ Brown at flex in a non PPR.
I'm gonna go Jacobs. Both of them are not great matchups, but I'm gonna go Jacobs. He can find the end zone. He's obviously. I'm always in standard leagues. I'm always gonna go with the guy who's gonna get more touches, and that's gonna be Jacobs.
This is how gross the tight end landscape is that we are debating on thinking about a guy's value whenever they are on bye, but that is Trey Burton, and he has been over the past couple of weeks has been used very interestingly. Now, granted, Mo Alley Cox has been out, and then Mo Alley Cox was going off whenever Jack Doyle was out. But what are your thoughts on Trey Burton? We obviously brought up Dallas Goedert as somebody that you could potentially pick up and stash. Obviously, that's who I would be going after over somebody like Trey Burton. If you're thinking about picking up somebody on bye, you might as well pick up somebody with higher upside who's on IR. But
it was kind of it was kind of a fluke game from him. He played 57% of the snaps, which isn't much different than he played 49 and 43% the weeks before that. He ran 23 routes. He had 5 targets, 4 receptions, 58 yards, but he had the 2 touchdowns, and that's where all his production came from. I wouldn't count on that on a weekly basis. Can you play Trey Burton? Sure, especially in this tight end landscape that we're in right now. Yeah, but it's like if Dallas Goedert and Trey Burton are both available, like it's a Dallas Goedert 1,000,000% over Trey Burton. But if you're needing a tight end, like yes, I can see it. If you wanted a stash room, if you needed a tight end, if you're not, if you're rocking one of these other, tight ends who are completely inconsistent, then sure. But I don't like Trey Burton's not all of a sudden like a tight end 1.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would even rather pick up, another tight end who's on by like Irv Smith. I think I'd probably rather have Irv Smith over Trey Burton because who knows what, especially after coming off bye, if Mo Alley Cox is healthy, if Jack Doyle was a little more healthy because he was banged up. Who knows? Like, you think 3-headed running backfields are bad? Try fucking around with the 3-headed tight end room like that. Like that's even worse. So those Irv Smith, Dallas Goedert, I'd rather pick up over Trey Burton. Andrew wants to know our overall thoughts on this team: Stafford, Mike Davis, Connor, Clyde, Julio, Claypool, Fulgham, Waller, Kupp, Chase Edmonds, Visca. Sitting at 1-5 right now, Mr. Marks is.
Well, that makes you a very dangerous person, right? Because now, 1-5, you can kind of do whatever the fuck you want because you're pretty much desperate at this point because you got to start getting some dubs. I would move Mike Davis for whatever you can get for him, especially with Christian McCaffrey coming back. You could probably even maybe pack it. See Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I do think that. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think people are going to overstate Le'Veon Bell, but I also think that there's some also concern there because it's going to be a little tilting with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So if you could package like a Mike Davis and Clyde Edwards-Helaire for another running back, I think you could probably get actually a really solid running back there to pair with him. Wide receiver wise, like I think you're okay, but I think you could definitely use an upgrade at wide receiver still. Trusting Claypool and Fulgham, on a weekly basis is going to be tough, especially once the Eagles start getting back their weapons. Love Cooper Kupp. Chase Edmonds is nice depth, and Laviska Shenault, I think, has a decent floor, but I don't know about a great ceiling. So if you can make a package trade for another running back, because I think it's time to the last couple of weeks I've been saying it to sell Mike Davis. Like the time is now to sell Mike Davis, because once Christian McCaffrey comes back, is Mike Davis going to completely lose his job? Like, is Christian McCaffrey going to play 100% of the snaps or 90% of the snaps? No, but I don't think it's going to be enough to where you can actually trust playing Mike Davis every week.
Yep, I agree. Connor S. wants to know, I traded Freeman and Higgins for Rojo and Marquise Brown.
You absolutely slayed it.
Yep. Agree on that.
And now, see, it's kind of like, have you ever seen those shows where like people like they have like a nickel and then they trade it for something and then they trade something and then they just keep trading up? Like now is the time you actually take that trade that you just got and trade up and get something else. Because like I said, I think Ronald Jones for me is somebody that I want to sell high on.
Started with a paperclip, ended up with a Lambo.
Yep.
Nate Zucker wants to know, should I trade A-Rob and Singletary to get Jonathan Taylor?
No.
I would not do that either. Daniel's last question for the night. My team, Schultz, Godwin, Tyreek, Metcalf, Jacobs, and David Johnson. Thoughts on this team, 4-2?
I don't know what your bench is, but you're great at wide receiver. I mean, you're loaded at wide receiver with Godwin, Tyreek, and Metcalf. And then at running back, you may need a little bit of depth, because I will say with Josh Jacobs, the tough thing with him is their schedule isn't that great. Even rest of the season, it's not really good. But it is encouraging with the way they've used him in the passing game. But yeah, I think you could probably use an upgrade at running back. Yes. You haven't hit accept yet?
Yeah. Go ahead and do that, Noah. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for tonight. Appreciate you joining in, listening. Make sure you subscribe on the YouTube channel. If you are checking us out on podcast form, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. If you are already subscribed, it would mean a lot to us. Again, you can join us. The DFS boys are going to be live on Thursday. You can join us on Sunday mornings where we will be going live on the YouTube channel starting at 11 a.m. Eastern. We appreciate all you guys, and hope you have a great week. Any questions, go ahead and drop them on our latest YouTube channel, and we will make sure that we get to that. And then we also have the Slack channel, and we will drop that description we will drop that link in the podcast description.
The link is also in the for the pod as well. If you drop down the description for the pod or for the YouTube, it's in there. You just click that link and it asks you for an email. You're in. It's absolutely free.
Boom. There you have it. All right, guys. Good luck in week 7, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.